Hi folks, it's Andy. Welcome to this week's Kendo Rant. I've got loads of questions to get through, so if I speak too fast, there's a button in the bottom corner, I think, on YouTube that lets you slow it down and you can listen to me speak like that. So, before we jump into the questions, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, all that sort of thing. Don't forget to join the Kendo Show Early Access group. There's a link in the description down below. I forgot my uniform today, but don't forget to shop at KendoStar.com. Yeah, that's my website, of course. It makes fantastic, wonderful, amazing, brilliant Kendo equipment, best rated on the internet. So yeah, you won't go far wrong shopping at KendoStar, so go and shop at KendoStar.com. Right, first question. Okay, here I am again asking a dumb question related to something in the video. There's no dumb questions, all right, except the ones you don't ask. Is it considered rude to try and beat a much higher ranking member when practicing with them? Or is doing basic waza and training your mental fortitude just your own way of gaining from it? My experience doing Kendo is limited to the half a year I have spent in Japan on student exchange. I want to get back into it here. I've just been too busy with the last few years working and university stuff. But in HEMA, I think that's like a historical European martial arts, right? At least I find myself learning a ton from fencing people of a higher skill than myself, trying to do my best to stand up to them. I got to spend a couple of minutes sparring one of the top 5 longsword fighters in the world, and what I learned from that gave my own fencing a massive boost, almost to the point of being ridiculous. Had I spent that time only doing basic attacks of him, he'd have countered me every single time, and I probably wouldn't have learned even close to as much as I did. The point I'm trying to make with this is that I'm trying the best. I learn the best by being seriously encountered by folk with more skill than I do, and I'd like to keep the same attitude in Kendo when I get back to doing it. But also, I want to avoid any huge breaches of etiquette. Okay, right. So look, I don't know anything about HEMA, so I'm not even going to touch that, right? But here's how it works in the Kendo context. The goal of Kendo is not to achieve victory over your opponent. Okay, so getting better at Kendo doesn't necessarily mean you're better at achieving victory over your opponent. It's about overcoming your own difficulties, your own fears, and the things that you're lacking in your own Kendo, overcoming those, all right? Now, look, I'm not being like kind of funny, but if you've only been in Kendo half a year, and it depends what you're talking about in terms of a much higher ranking member, all right? But if you're talking about someone that's like 6th or 7th dan, you've been doing Kendo for half a year, you can try as hard as you want, but you ain't going to beat them, all right? It just doesn't work like that, all right? So, yeah, it's not a case of like, oh, I'm going to try my best to beat them, and they're going to try their best to beat me. You know, a good sensei isn't trying to beat you. A good teacher isn't trying to beat you. They're trying to pull you up. They're trying to raise your level of Kendo, all right? Now, that's different to raising your level of sword fighting or dueling ability. Keep that in mind. But that's why you have to try your best to make the most of that by, yes, focusing on basic attacks that are particularly proactive, not too much orjuwaza or blocking, things like that, things that force you to overcome your fear of striking and being hit, and that's what's going to help you better at Kendo, all right? Whether that's going to make you a better sword fighter or not, I don't know, because that's not relevant to the topic, all right? It's a little bit difficult, especially if you're new to Kendo, but trust me, that's the right way to go about it, okay? Next one, Kendo and aging. How do I adjust my Kendo training as I get older? I started Kendo in my 20s. I'm approaching 50. My body's not the same, but I want to remain competitive as possible. But at a minimum, continue Kendo into 50s and well beyond. How can I adjust my Kendo training? Many Western athletics seem to see participants fade out with age, but Kendo has participants of all ages, including seniors. How can I be one of those aging Kendoka and adjust my training with age? So, great question. I think I've talked about it a bit before, but the thing is yes, Kendo is a really interesting thing, because it's not like your physical age or your physical ability has no bearing whatsoever. But at the same time, there are loads of really old sensei that are still really, really strong. However, there is a reason that those guys that are like in their 50s, even the top Japanese 8th dans, aren't really able to compete with the guys in the All Japan Championships that are in the 20s and 30s. Yeah, there is still a physical part of it that does play play into it. But then they also are taking the role of the sensei as opposed to the competitor. You know, there's a point in which they kind of cross over that line from being a competitor to a kind of sensei, if you know what I mean, which affects the way that they interact with those younger players. It's really quite interesting, I think. But in terms of what you should do in your own sort of situation is in terms of continuing to compete, I think it's certainly possible. You just have to make sure you stay in shape, all right? Because obviously as you get older, you become more prone to injury. So try to keep in, you know, as good physical condition as you possibly can. But in terms of continuing practicing overall, I think as much as possible, you need to continue practicing Kihon basics. I think you really need to do that because it's easier to slip away from them as you get older. I really do think that. So you have to, you know, I really think you have to focus on doing that all the time. You don't look at it as like, oh, that's something I've done and I can go on past that now. Carry on doing Kihon, carry on doing Kirikaishi, carry on with your basics. And then as you're practicing, you have to remember, if you're practicing with somebody that's younger, there's no point trying to do their Kendo, trying to do Kendo like they're doing, that young, kind of dynamic, fast Kendo. You have to be more focused about doing adult Kendo. Is very kind of comparable in a way to how in the situation in Japan is like, I'm like a lot older, let's say, than some of the high school kids that I practice with in Japan. And some of them are very, very successful competitors, but still I'm able to provide a good challenge to them as a sensei, as a teacher, and also not allow them to hit me and make successful strikes on them, to show them their weakness because of my experience. And that's not just my Kendo experience, but my life experience as a whole. So you have to kind of move the way that you actually practice to be more focused on seme and taking the initiative. And then you're still able, I think, to be able to compete to some extent with the younger players. But going back to the previous question, bear in mind that Kendo's not about just winning achieving victory over the person you're in front of. So you have to keep that in mind and try to keep on the track, if you know, and keep on the path. Okay. Next question. What are your favourite dojo traditions? My club in the US had cookouts and dinner parties a couple of times a year. Where I practice regularly in Japan, we have summer camp in the winter, and we have one short practice and after put out blue sheet top and everyone eats zensai. I think that's pretty common actually. I recently talked with some dads after practice this week that our feet are frozen and we should go to the local bathhouse. And they were like, yeah, let's do that and drink beer. Things like that. So I think some of my favorite sort of dojo traditions, I quite like the oyako shiai, which is like oyako shiai is like when you have the parents versus kids shiai, so you have to do the shiai against your kids. It can be quite fun when some of the parents don't do kendo, but still they have to wear the bogu and try and do the shiai with the kids. That could be really, really strong. I've seen that a few times in Japan because they're often the ones shouting at the kids from the sideline, do this or do that, or hit men now, or try harder and stuff like that. And then suddenly they've got to wear the bogu and fight against the kid that they've been shouting at all year. I think that's quite fun. They're sitting around eating zensai, stuff like that. That's kind of fun too. And of course, you know, in sort of Europe where I am, stuff like Christmas parties and stuff like that, quite nice, I think. Yeah. So next one. I've recently been attacking kote from a much further distance with reasonable success, though I'm finding my cuts quite heavy. Obviously, I don't want to cause discomfort for my fellow kendoka. My cut is level and my tenuichi is pretty decent with my other cuts, so any advice would be appreciated. Okay, so go back and watch last week's Kendo RANT because I talked exactly about how to strike kote with good tenuichi, all right? After you hit, the moment you make the strike, you lift the shinai off, okay? It doesn't matter what distance you're making the strike from, hit and lift off, pam, this way, not backwards this way forwards, okay? Go and watch last week's video. I talk all about it. I think that will help you, definitely. Next one, here's one from... Here's one kind of old from the left field. What do you think of Nishimura describing his previous successful approach techniques as cowardly, at least as translated to English in the documentary Path of No Regret? What are your any opinions or convictions in that arena? Okay, so Actually, he doesn't say that those techniques are cowardly. Okay, so what he's talking about is how he had a lot of success of stepping back. I think if I remember rightly, stepping back, drawing the opponent in, and then hitting a kote or something like that. So making a strike after stepping backwards. And what he actually said in the video is. And I think I'm not sure. I think it is a little bit of a confusing thing because of how it was translated. Because they use the word cowardly, which does kind of imply that he's saying that it is cowardly. But actually, what he says is, generally in Kendo, stepping backwards isn't considered a good thing, and even if you make a calculated technique of stepping backwards to draw them in and making a strike, that isn't always obvious from the outside and can be considered by other people as cowardly. Okay? That's different to meaning what I am doing is cowardly. Yeah? What he's saying is what I'm doing looks cowardly. All right? And he doesn't really like that. He wants to be a good example of Kendo that's bold and I guess considered to be brave, okay? And that doesn't give that impression. That's what he's talking about. And I agree. And I think I'm not saying that the tactic is bad or you shouldn't do it. It's great tactics I've used myself as well. But I definitely understand his rationale for saying that actually, if you look at that from the outside, going backwards, it kind of looks kind of cowardly, like you're too scared of being hit, and you don't have the strong ki. Okay, that's what he says in the Japanese version, and I think the English version pretty much does say that as well. So I think it's not, that's an important distinction to make, if that makes sense. But yeah, I mean, it does. The idea is it looks like you're trying to just avoid being hit, and that isn't really ideal in terms of the overall big picture of Kendo. Like I said, it's not about just hitting the other person. It's about overcoming your own fear, and it doesn't look like that's what you're doing when you try and set up a waza by stepping backwards. All right, it's not ideal in that case if you think about it. Right, next one. Apologies if this has already been covered. Can you shed some light on correct tai-atari and tsubazeri? I thought that tsubazeri was tsubas together and tai-atari was like fists together or clashing of door if both people's arms are up. Is this right? Or are they the same thing? Just the phrases are interchangeable. Also, is one better than the other for a follow-up attack such as hikiwaza? Okay, so they're not the same thing, first of all. Tsubazeri means competing at the tsuba. So the tsuba is against the other tsuba, okay? It's not fists together like this, which is you often see people doing it wrong. The fists shouldn't be together like this. Tsuba against tsuba and people fighting at a close distance, okay? So usually after they made an attack, it's failed. They come to tsubazeri and the tsubas are locked together, okay? And that's where they're looking for a chance to make hikiwaza. Tai-atari means a body crash, okay? So it usually happens after a strike. After you make a strike, it fails or whatever, and you make a crash into the opponent using your hips and your sort of body, okay? So you use your hands together with your body and your hips together as a tai-atari, a crash, to hopefully create another opening for an immediate hikiwaza there. Neither one of them is better for a follow-up attack. It's just they're different in terms of the situation that they're used in, okay? So tsubazeri is a continuous state of affairs where you're continuously in tsubazeri looking for the chance, and then you make the chance, hikiwaza, okay? Tai-atari, you make an attack, for example, it misses, whatever, you keep going forward because you've attacked with sutemi, you make tai-atari, crash into the opponent, it knocks them off balance a little bit, you get a chance for an immediate hikiwaza there, okay? Next one. What is the thing that you've learned on your own and not from any sensei that you're most proud of? Something that clicked or was illuminated by a holy ray of light one day and you were like, ooh. Actually, for the most part, you don't learn Kendo from sensei anyway. Most of Kendo has to be learned like this. You have to figure it out. Sensei give you little tips, little pieces of advice along the way, but you have to kind of take over and figure it out. And for me, that's certainly been the way, especially as I did most of my Kendo up to now in Japan. senseis don't come and say, oh, here's some advice for you. You know, they might give you one little bit of advice, say like, you know, don't step back so much, something like that. Or, you know, don't raise your hands when you're scared. That sort of thing. They don't give you like in-depth instruction so much. But I'd say that the biggest thing so far for me has been the concept of sen, taking the initiative. Nobody ever said to me like, oh, this is what sen is, and this is what it means to take the sen, to take the initiative, and that's how you create opportunities for dabanawaza, or for techniques that affect the opponent's posture or composure. Nobody like explained that to me. I just figured it out through keiko, a lot of keiko over many years. And yeah, I'd say that's been kind of the biggest thing. That's kind of really changed the direction in which my kendo went, and it was one of the biggest contributing factors, really, because I started to figure it out probably 2 years before my 6th Dan exam, and I think thankfully, because I figured that out, started working on it, started building it up, I think that's what helped me pass the test. Right, next one. Do you think you could talk about the differences between Kanto style men himo and Kansai style? I recently received a men from the dojo with a Kansai style men himo. Although I learned how to tie it, there were not many good videos showing how to do so. If you could give me and others an example, that'd be awesome. So, Kansai style tying, I've never... Do you know what's funny is this kind of Kanto style and Kansai style, I only ever hear these terms outside of Japan. I don't hear them I've never heard them in Japan. People in Japan, like... I'm not saying they don't use them there, because I'm sure they do. Now, what's referred to as the Kansai style is when you attach the menhimo with one long chichikawa to the top, and that is popular in Kansai, and I think that's why people call it a Kansai style. And then the other method, which some people call the Kanto style, but it's basically the main style, like it's the kind of normal style, is to attach it with 2 chichikawa from the bottom of the mengane here. I believe it comes from back in the day when it used to be the case that if you were able to wrestle your opponent to the ground and take the men off, you immediately won a match. And using the let's call it the Kansai style from attaching from the top, you wrap the men himo around the head one extra time, so it requires extra long himo, and it's much harder to tear someone's men off. I might be able to do a video about it at some point, yeah. I don't use that specific method of tying the men myself. I did do Kendo in Kansai for like 3 years, but even then I stuck to the regular method, like many people in Kansai do. Not everybody in Kansai uses that. Not everybody who uses that is in or from Kansai either, all right? The method of attaching it to the top. So this is why like I always get a bit kind of curious as to why people call it Kanto style and Kansai style. You know, I was in Kyushu, it's nowhere near Kanto. Everyone in Kyushu uses the attaching at the bottom style, but it's not called the Kyushu style, right? So yeah, anyway, I don't use it myself. Maybe I'll get to doing a video on it at some point. And when I do, I'll certainly upload it. Okay, next one. When it comes to teaching beginners, which is the more effective method? Training beginners on a one-by-one basis when they want to start, or having organized beginner sessions that are run on a scheduled basis, i.e. twice a year or so it creates a pool of beginners and then train them all together as a group. Generally, I tend to prefer the group method. It's possible that the one-by-one may allow the student to progress a bit faster, but I don't think so. The more I think about it, you know, maybe there's an argument there that, you know, if they have the one-on-one attention, they might learn faster. But like, I think people tend to stick at Kendo more if they start in a group and they can start with other beginners. They don't feel like they're the only one that can't do it. And, you know, they might also make friends with each other, and then they feel like they've got a community of their own in a way, which also helps motivate and encourage them to come. So for me, I prefer the group method. Okay. Have you got any fun Kendo games or activities for an end of year keiko? I'm thinking along the lines of balloon Kendo, etc. How many times do I have to say this on the videos? Kendo's not supposed to be fun. Okay, so and it's in a serious note though. Kendo's not supposed to be fun, but the balloon game, yeah, that's all right. If you want to do that sort of thing. Some things that I've seen are we've got some like cones or something like that they use for like soccer if you're in America, but football practice. You put them around the dojo. You can do like slalom races, or you can do like relay races. One thing we've done before is this is my club in Japan. We split the kids into two groups, and then this sort of kind of uchikomi without the bogu, when one holds a shinai like this, and then they hit the shinai. Maybe 4 or 5 of them lined up like this, and one kid hits going men down the line like that, and then maybe back again, and then the other kids don't have a shinai, maybe they have to even swap the shinai over, so it's like a kind of relay. There's all sorts of creative things you can do if you put your mind to it and you want to make kendo fun. So yeah, good luck with it. Next one. In my club, we have lots of insightful discussions about both the practice and theory of Kendo, which I've very much enjoyed listening to. We're discussing the topic of Shimpan recently, and I'm very much a beginner. And to me, it seems like an impossibly difficult task. Having to concentrate at a high level for long periods of time, especially when higher grades are fighting each other, must be difficult. And the more experienced kendoka, however, are able to see the differences in the quality of judgments. Yep. How can a Shimpan develop confidence in their abilities to judge a Shiai so that they are fair but don't miss the right call? Are there ways outside of Shimpan courses to develop a good awareness of what is the right call objectively? I did note that people do get upset when they perceive an incorrect call or missed ippon. My seniors had a lot of interesting things to say, and I wouldn't mind hearing your thoughts on the subject as well. Okay, so a couple of things there. First off, the best way to... It is really hard to Shimpan. It is really hard. It takes a lot of concentration. The best way to become a good Shimpan, there's a couple of things you have to do. First thing is you have to do Shimpan. You have to do as much as you can. And I think in the West, when I say in the West, outside Japan, I think people start doing Shimpan far too late. I think once you have Shodan, you should start getting Shimpan practice, even if it's at a small level, just inside your club. But as much as possible, like from Shodan, people should be starting to do Shimpan. In Japan, junior high school students have to Shimpan each other, and they are like 13 years old, right? So 12, 13 years old even. So I think one of the problems is we start far too late, so we don't have the years of experience that the Japanese counterparts often do. Secondly, you have to do Kendo. You can't just do Shimpan and not practice Kendo. It's inseparably interlinked. You have to practice Kendo regularly. You have to be able to perform the waza that you are trying to judge, and you have to be able to make yuko datotsu in order to judge yuko datotsu. Okay, that's why I said like Shodan and above should be able to do Shimpan, and it goes hand in hand, right? Doing Shimpan will help your Kendo as well, even from the sort of Shodan level. At Shodan, you should be able to make a somewhat reasonable standard of yuko datotsu in your own keiko. And the more you judge matches, the more you'll understand the difference between the quality of them and what you're supposed to be doing in your own keiko. So it kind of goes hand in hand there as well. The second thing I'd say, though, is one thing you said is... other ways outside Shimpan courses to develop a good awareness of what is the right call objectively. There's no objectivity in Kendo Shimpan. That's kind of the point. It is a subjective decision. And it is the cumulative decision of 3 Shimpan, and it's their subjective opinion. All right? There is no objective standard. All right? And it's intentionally that way. Now, there are things you can do, though, to improve your ability at it, not just practicing Kendo, not just practicing Shimpan. One of the things I did, and I still do, is Mitori Geiko means watching practice. So watch Kendo, watch our analysis videos. I put an analysis video out pretty much every week where I talk you through a lot of Kendo videos. We did a great one last week on the last World Kendo Championships that had some very difficult Shinpan moments as well. And you get to understand what is Yuko Datotsu, what is Ippon and what isn't, okay? Another exercise you can do, something else that I like to try and do, is you can watch a match on YouTube or an Ippon compilation. Probably best to watch a match rather than the actual selected Ippon. Watch a full match and try to watch it as if you were the Shimpan. Yeah, watch it, practice, think. When you see an attack, if you would award that as a point, then you can practice even raising your hand this side or that side. This is something that I literally did myself when I first started Kendo. Like before I was even Shodan, I really wanted to understand what the difference was between the strikes that counted as Ippon and the ones that didn't, because at the time I couldn't really understand. And luckily I had some footage that I'd taken myself with a massive camcorder at the World Championships when it was in the UK. And I just stood and I used to watch it. I'd stand in front of my television with my arms to my side and I'd watch the matches that I'd videoed. And when I saw something I thought was Ippon, I'd raise my hand. And if the Shimpan on the television also raised the hand, okay, good, I got it right. And if it didn't, okay, that wasn't quite the right one. And then I'd kind of come to get used to the idea of the sort of general overall level to a basic standard, of course, all right? But it's a great exercise that you can do. Right, last one. This is actually 3 questions in one. So it says I might be a bit late. Let's go. 3 quick questions. 1, how does one perform fumikiri when doing hikiwaza? Okay, so fumikiri is when you kick off from your left leg when you jump forward to hit with fumikomi. Generally, you don't really do this with hikiwaza. There's 2 types of fumikomi for hikiwaza. There's one where you kind of jump back. So in which case, you jump back this way, and then fumikomi, as you do the hit, you kind of jump back this way like this. And that's your fumikiri there, is when you push off from the right leg, right? I don't actually use that kind of fumikomi for hikiwaza so much. Sometimes I do, but generally not. I like to use a more what I think to be effective one, where I keep my feet in my kamae posture and I make fumikomi first, and I use the fumikomi to push myself backwards for my hikiwaza. So instead of jumping backwards this way, I just hit on the spot, hit with my fumikomi, and my fumikomi pushes me backwards that way. So the fumikiri comes after the fumikomi in this case. Okay, if that makes sense. 2, what should a Shimpan do in the situations? One player makes a nice strike, all Shimpan give Ippon, but the player does an absolutely awful Zanshin. The Shushin, and only the Shushin can do this, so Hokushin cannot do this, should call Gogi, and they should have a meeting and say, was that good enough for Ippon, really? Or did the Zanshin spoil it? And if they all agree that it spoiled it, they can go away, they can do Torikeshin, they can take the point away, all right? However, if it's immediate, all right, you can put the flag up and you can put it back down, all right? You can put it up and you can put it back down. Okay, it says that you don't have to wave it off or anything like that. If you see a strike you thought was good and that actually there wasn't enough Zanshin, you can put up and then you can put back down again, all right? You're allowed to do that, all right? And if you do that and the other Shimpan puts one up and keeps it up, maybe the other one puts it down as well, then probably the Shushin is going to call Gogi. They're going to have a meeting and it's going to be resolved, all right? But if you put it up and they say men ari, if they say men ari or whatever ari, then it has to be taken away before they can, put the flags back down again. So, right, last one. How come there's not a lot of options, as far as I know, of decorations for Kansai style Menchichikawa? There it is again, Kansai style, the one where you attach from the top. There's not that many because it's not that popular way of actually tying the men. It's popular in Kansai. There's a few people, some people outside of Kansai do it, and everyone else, generally, not everyone else, but everywhere else, the most popular style is the regular method, okay? I wouldn't even say that what's called the Kansai style, what you call the Kansai style, is necessarily the most popular in the Kansai area either. It just is a popular way in Kansai. So that's why there aren't so many. Maybe we could get access to more if there's a demand for it. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know if you'd like us to look into that as an option. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, leave a comment down below. Join the Kendo Show Early Access group and shop at KendoStar.com. See you all next time.